Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I am here with James Vincent of Envoy Mortgage, and today we're going to talk about self-employment. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So getting started, what differs individuals who are self-employed?
Yeah, self-employed, these are really good questions that we have here. The self-employed borrower or buyer is in a really unique situation.
Okay.
Most of us are not necessarily familiar with tax returns. We go to a professional and he or she prepares those for us. And so it's more involved for a self-employed individual.
Okay.
So there are deductions or write-offs that a self-employed individual can take advantage of that a W-2 person would not be able to take advantage of.
Okay.
And because of that, what I would say, see more often than not with a W-2 person who maybe just gets a regular hourly or salary income, they know how much they make at the end of the year based on their income. And a self-employed person, what we really have to separate when we're talking with someone who's self-employed, typically they will give us the total amount of money they made in that year or in the years we're asking about.
Sure.
And what we need to look at is we actually need to get the tax returns and dig into those and make sure what write-offs that they have taken, because we want to look at their adjusted gross income, not necessarily their gross income. And I would say more often than not on a self-employed buyer or borrower, that is what can get you tripped up, is that a buyer or a client would give you their gross income as opposed to their adjusted gross income. So as a loan officer, we need to go in, review those tax returns. You can have tax returns that can be 1 inch or 2 inches thick. Okay. And so that can be pretty hard for a lot of loan officers to go through if you've not been through the training. Most companies now have a desk or a service that you would use, and you would submit those tax returns and they would review. It's internal. It doesn't go to another company or anything like that.
Okay.
And so if the tax returns are especially complicated, you would probably want to have someone else review your work just to make sure that the income that you came up with was accurate, because you want to make sure that your buyer or borrower can qualify for the loan.
Definitely.
And you hear those horror stories of somebody who's self-employed, sometimes in the biz,
sure,
who gets a week from closing, and then the underwriter comes out and says, hey, this person doesn't qualify.
Yep.
And a lot of times the reason that is, if it's self-employed, is because the income may not have been reviewed carefully enough, and the amount that was used may not be the correct amount. There may be some additional write-offs that you couldn't back in. I don't want to get into it too much, but in those instances, it could be that maybe the income was not as carefully reviewed.